The shuttle shook as it docked with Harmony Point Station. Ben Torres gripped his seat and tried to keep his breakfast down. 3 months of training on Earth had not prepared him for this moment. He was about to meet aliens. Real aliens. "Remember the protocols," Anna Kim said from across the shuttle. She was the team leader, chosen for her years of diplomatic experience. "We speak only when spoken to. We observe everything. We do not touch anything unless invited." Ben nodded along with the other 5 humans on the diplomatic team. They all wore simple blue uniforms with Earth's new galactic symbol on the chest. The symbol looked like a small blue dot surrounded by stars. It seemed fitting. Earth was just a small dot in this vast galaxy. The shuttle door opened with a hiss. Cool air rushed in, carrying strange smells. Ben caught hints of metal, ozone, and something sweet he could not identify. His heart pounded as they stepped onto the station. Harmony Point was massive. The docking bay alone could have held 10 football stadiums. The ceiling stretched up so high that Ben could barely see it. Strange lights floated in the air without any visible support. The walls curved in impossible ways that made his eyes hurt to follow. "Stay close," Anna whispered. A figure approached them. It walked on 2 legs like a human, but that was where the similarity ended. Its skin was pale green and smooth like polished stone. It had 4 arms and large black eyes that took up half its face. When it spoke, its voice came from a small device on its chest. "Welcome, humans of Earth. I am Guide Tam of the Collective. Please follow me to the registration area." They walked through corridors filled with beings that belonged in science fiction movies. Ben saw creatures that looked like walking trees, others that seemed to be made of liquid metal, and some that floated in the air inside clear bubbles. Every few steps he had to remind himself to close his mouth. The registration area was a huge circular room with a raised platform in the center. Hundreds of different species filled the space, all talking in languages that the translation devices could barely handle. The noise was overwhelming. "Earth delegation, please proceed to Station 7, announced a voice from somewhere above them. Station 7 was a small booth where another alien waited. This one looked like a giant insect with silver wings and compound eyes. It studied each human carefully and handed them identification badges. "You are here for the opening ceremony of the 847th Galactic Council," the insect being said. "Your species has been granted observer status. You may watch but not participate in any votes or discussions." "We understand," Anna replied. "When does the ceremony begin?" "In 1 standard hour. Please proceed to viewing section C7. Do not leave your assigned area without escort." Ben looked at his badge. It was warm to the touch and seemed to glow with a soft blue light. The moment he put it on, the chaos of sounds around him became clearer. The translation device was working better now. They found their viewing section easily enough. It was a small balcony overlooking the main floor of the council chamber. The chamber itself was enormous, with seating for thousands of beings. In the center was a raised stage with 12 ornate chairs arranged in a circle. "Those are for the great houses," Anna explained, reading from her briefing notes. "The 12 most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. They make all the major decisions." Ben studied each chair as delegates began taking their seats. The first chair was occupied by a being that looked like it was made of living crystal. Light passed through its body in rainbow patterns. The second chair held something that resembled a giant octopus made of metal. Each chair filled with creatures more amazing than the last. "The one that looks like a crystal formation," Anna whispered. "That represents the Nexus Empire. They control most of the hyperspace routes. Very powerful, very mysterious." Ben nodded, but he was distracted by the atmosphere in the room. As each Great House delegate took their seat, the noise level in the chamber dropped. By the time 11 chairs were filled, the entire room was almost silent. "Where is the 12th delegate?" asked Mira, one of the junior human diplomats. Guide Tam, who had stayed with them, made a nervous sound. "The 12th seat belongs to Queen Vex of the Nexus Empire. She has not attended a council meeting in over 300 years. "Why not?" Ben asked. "No one knows. Some say she finds other species beneath her notice. Others believe she has transcended the need for physical form. There are legends that she can destroy entire star systems with a thought." The ceremony began with a long speech from the crystal being in the first chair. Ben tried to follow along, but the politics were complex. Something about trade routes and territorial disputes. His attention wandered to the magnificent architecture of the chamber. That was when the temperature in the room suddenly dropped by 10 degrees. Every conversation stopped. Every being in the chamber turned toward the main entrance. Even the Great House delegates stood up from their chairs. Something that Guide Tam whispered had never happened before. The entrance doors, which were 20 feet tall and made of some kind of dark metal, began to glow. The glow spread from the edges toward the center, and then the doors simply dissolved into particles of light. Queen Vex entered the chamber. Ben understood immediately why the other species feared her. She was tall, at least 8 feet, and her entire body was made of what looked like living crystal. But unlike the other crystal being, her form was perfect. Every angle was precise, every surface polished to mirror brightness. Light did not just pass through her, it obeyed her. Colors swirled inside her body in patterns that hurt to look at directly. She moved without walking. Her feet did not touch the ground, yet she glided forward with perfect grace. As she passed different sections of the chamber, beings dropped to their knees or prostrated themselves completely. The human delegation remained standing, unsure of what to do. Queen Vex reached the center of the chamber and paused. She turned slowly, examining each section of the audience. When her gaze passed over the human section, Ben felt a strange tingling sensation, like static electricity before a storm. "Your Majesty," said the crystal being who had been giving the speech, "we are honored by your presence." "The Nexus Empire has not—" Queen Vex raised one hand and the speaker fell silent. Her voice when she spoke was like the sound of wind chimes mixed with breaking glass. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "I have come because there is something new in this galaxy," she said. "Something that has not existed before." Every being in the chamber leaned forward. Ben found himself holding his breath. Queen Vex began to move again, but this time she was scanning the audience more carefully. Her crystalline head turned left and right, studying each section with intense focus. The tingling sensation Ben had felt earlier grew stronger. "For millions of years, this galaxy has remained the same," Queen Vex continued. "The same species making the same choices in the same patterns. The same solutions to the same problems. Even your wars follow predictable paths." She paused near the center of the chamber, her faceted eyes continuing to search. "But recently, something has changed. A new variable has entered the equation, a species that does not follow the established patterns." Ben felt the tingling become almost painful. He looked at his teammates and saw that Anna was staring at him with wide eyes. The other humans were backing away from him slightly as if he were radioactive. Queen Vex stopped moving. Her head turned directly toward the human viewing section. Her eyes, which seemed to contain entire galaxies, focused on Ben with laser intensity. The chamber became absolutely silent. Ben could hear his own heartbeat echoing in the vast space. Queen Vex raised one crystalline finger and pointed directly at him. "That one belongs to me." The words hit the chamber like a physical force. Several smaller species collapsed from shock. The Great House delegates grabbed their chairs for support. Guide Tam made a choking sound and fell backward. Ben stood frozen, unable to move or speak. The tingling sensation had become a warm buzzing that seemed to fill his entire body. Queen Vex's pointing finger was like a spotlight holding him in place. "Your Majesty." Anna stepped forward, her voice shaking but determined. "Ben Torres is a representative of Earth. He cannot simply be claimed by—" Queen Vex turned her gaze to Anna, and the human diplomat immediately fell silent. Not because she was afraid, though fear was clearly visible on her face, but because her voice simply stopped working. "I have claimed him," Queen Vex said, her voice filling every corner of the massive chamber. "He will come to my ship. The rest of your species may leave." "Now wait just a minute," Ben found his voice working again. The words came out before he could stop them. Several aliens gasped at his audacity. "I appreciate the invitation, Your Majesty, but I think there has been some kind of mistake." Queen Vex tilted her head, studying him like he was a fascinating puzzle. For a moment, Ben thought he saw something like surprise flicker in those galactic eyes. "You question my decision?" she asked. Ben realized he had just done something that apparently no one had done in centuries. The smart thing would be to apologize and hope she did not incinerate him on the spot. Instead, he found himself taking a step forward. "I question the process," he said. "I am here as part of a diplomatic mission. If you want to discuss something with me, that is fine. But I am not property to be claimed." The silence in the chamber was so complete that Ben could hear the air recycling systems humming in the walls. Queen Vex stared at him for what felt like hours but was probably only seconds. Then she did something that shocked everyone in the chamber more than her initial claim. She smiled. It was not a human smile, of course. Her crystalline features shifted and light patterns flowed across her face in what could only be interpreted as pleasure. Fascinating, she said. You continue to surprise even when cornered. Yes, you will definitely come to my ship. Ben, do not argue with her, Anna whispered urgently. She could kill all of us without thinking about it. But Ben was studying Queen Vex's expression, and he was beginning to suspect that killing them was the last thing on her mind. There was something else in those strange eyes, something that looked almost like excitement. If I come with you, Ben said carefully, what happens to my team? What happens to Earth? Your team will return to your world and report what they have seen, Queen Vex replied. As for what happens to your planet, that depends entirely on what I learn from you. She gestured, and the air around Ben began to shimmer. He felt a pulling sensation as if gravity had suddenly shifted direction. Wait, he called out as his feet left the ground. Can I at least say goodbye? Queen Vex paused the transport effect. Ben turned to Anna and his teammates, who were staring at him with expressions of terror and admiration. Tell them on Earth that I went willingly, he said, and tell them that whatever happens, I do not think she means us harm. How can you possibly know that? Anna asked. Ben looked back at Queen Vex, who was watching this exchange with obvious interest. Because, he said, if she wanted to hurt us, we would already be dead. She wants something else, something she thinks I can give her. The transport effect resumed, and Ben felt himself being lifted through the air toward Queen Vex. As he approached her, he could see details in her crystalline structure that were invisible from a distance. Tiny lights moved through her body like a living computer system. Energy patterns flowed and shifted with each of her thoughts. You are not afraid, she observed as he stopped floating just in front of her. I am terrified, Ben corrected. But I am also curious, and curiosity is stronger than fear right now. Queen Vex's smile became more pronounced. Yes, she said. That is exactly what I was hoping you would say. The chamber around them began to fade as Queen Vex activated some kind of teleportation system. The last thing Ben saw was Anna's face, determined and brave despite her fear. Then the council chamber vanished, and he found himself standing in a corridor that seemed to be made entirely of light. Welcome to the Nexus Prime, Queen Vex said, my flagship and home for the past 1,000 years. Ben looked around at the impossible architecture surrounding them. The walls were transparent but somehow solid. Stars were visible through the floor, ceiling, and walls, making it seem like they were floating in space itself. It is beautiful, he said honestly. You are not what I expected, Queen Vex said as she began moving down the corridor. Ben followed, his feet making no sound on the crystal floor. What did you expect? Fear, submission, the usual responses I receive from other species. Maybe you have been talking to the wrong species, Ben suggested. Queen Vex stopped and turned to face him fully. Her expression was completely unreadable, but Ben sensed that he had said something significant. Perhaps I have, she said. Come. There is much I need to show you, and even more I need to understand about your kind. They continued down the corridor, passing rooms and chambers that defied description. Ben caught glimpses of technology that made Earth's most advanced computers look like stone tools. Gardens of crystal trees growing in impossible geometric patterns, pools of liquid light that moved and swirled like living things. Queen Vex, Ben said as they walked. Why did you choose me specifically? There were 5 other humans in that chamber. 6 humans, she corrected. And I chose you because you were the only one whose reaction I could not predict. What do you mean? Queen Vex stopped at a pair of doors that opened silently at her approach. Beyond was a chamber that took Ben's breath away. It was huge, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch into infinity. The walls were covered with what looked like star maps, but the stars were moving and changing in real time. I have studied your species since your first radio signals reached our sensors, Queen Vex said. I have observed your behavior patterns, your social structures, your responses to various stimuli. Most species are remarkably predictable once you understand their base programming. She gestured to a chair that rose from the floor as Ben approached. It was made of the same crystal as everything else, but was somehow comfortable to sit in. Your teammates reacted exactly as I predicted they would, Queen Vex continued. Fear followed by protective clustering. Appeals to authority and protocol. Submission masked as diplomacy. And me? You questioned me, not out of stupidity or arrogance, but out of genuine curiosity. When threatened, you moved forward instead of backward. When faced with the unknown, you chose engagement over retreat. Queen Vex settled into a chair across from him, her crystalline form flowing like water before solidifying again. In all my centuries of existence, she said, I have never encountered a species capable of truly surprising me. Until now. Ben considered this. Is that why you claimed me? Because I surprised you? I claimed you because your species may be the answer to a problem that has plagued the galaxy for millions of years. What problem? Queen Vex's expression became serious and the lights in her crystalline body dimmed slightly. The problem of stagnation, she said. The problem of a galaxy that has forgotten how to grow. Ben stared at Queen Vex as her words sank in. Stagnation? But the galaxy seems pretty advanced to me. I mean, you have faster-than-light travel, energy manipulation, species living for thousands of years. Queen Vex rose from her chair and walked to one of the moving star maps. With a gesture, she zoomed in on a particular section of space. Ben could see hundreds of star systems, each connected by glowing lines. This is the Nexus Empire, she said. It spans 12,000 star systems. We have existed for over 2 million years. That is incredible, Ben said. It is a prison, Queen Vex replied, her voice carrying a sadness that surprised him. Look closer. The star map shifted, showing detailed views of different planets. Ben saw vast crystal cities, all identical in design, ships moving in perfect formation along predetermined routes, beings going about their daily task with mechanical precision. Everything is the same, Queen Vex continued. Every city built to the exact same specifications. Every ship following the exact same flight paths. Every citizen performing the exact same functions their ancestors performed 1 million years ago. Ben began to understand. You have not changed. Precisely. We reached what we believed was perfection, and then we stopped growing. We stopped learning. We stopped becoming anything new. Queen Vex moved to another section of the star map, showing different species and their territories. The collective who greeted you at the station have not developed a new technology in 50,000 years. The hegemony still uses the same military tactics they perfected 100,000 years ago. The Trade Federation follows economic models that have not changed in 300,000 years. But they are all successful, Ben pointed out. They control huge sections of space. Success without growth is just elaborate death, Queen Vex said. We have become so efficient, so perfect, that we have lost the ability to surprise ourselves. We know exactly what we will do tomorrow, next year, next century. She turned back to Ben, her crystalline eyes reflecting the light from the star maps. Until your species appeared. Queen Vex gestured again, and the star map zoomed in on Earth's solar system. Ben could see Earth as a tiny blue dot with small ships moving around it. We have been monitoring your species for 200 of your years, Queen Vex said. At first, we dismissed you as another primitive race that would follow the standard development pattern. Stone tools to metal tools to basic technology to space travel. Very predictable, but you kept doing things wrong. And somehow doing them wrong made you stronger. The star map shifted to show human history. Ben saw images of wars, disasters, and conflicts, but also art, music, and literature. Every other species we have observed follows logical development paths, Queen Vex explained. They solve problems efficiently and move on. But humans solve problems in ways that create new problems, which you then solve in even stranger ways. Ben laughed despite himself. That does sound like us. When faced with the challenge of flight, most species develop anti-gravity technology. Humans strapped wings to their backs and jumped off cliffs until they figured out powered flight. Inefficient, dangerous, and completely unpredictable. The images shifted to show human space exploration. When faced with the challenge of space travel, most species develop jump drives or warp technology. Humans built metal tubes filled with explosives and rode them into space. Again, inefficient and dangerous. But it worked. Ben was beginning to see where this was going. You think our inefficiency is actually a strength. I think your inefficiency is the key to breaking the stagnation that has trapped this galaxy for millions of years. Queen Vex sat back down, leaning forward with intense interest. Tell me, Ben Torres of Earth, what would you do if I gave you unlimited resources and asked you to improve space travel? Ben thought for a moment. Well, I guess I would start by asking why we need to improve it. Maybe the problem is not how we travel through space, but why we want to travel through space in the first place. Queen Vex's crystalline body brightened. Explain. Maybe instead of making ships faster, we should figure out how to make distance irrelevant. Or maybe we should not travel to other places at all, but bring other places to us. Or maybe the whole concept of travel is wrong and we should be thinking about connection instead. Fascinating, Queen Vex said. A Nexus engineer would immediately begin calculating improved propulsion systems. A collective scientist would research better energy sources. A hegemony strategist would design faster military vessels. But you question the entire premise. Ben shrugged. It is probably a stupid idea. On the contrary, it is exactly the kind of thinking that this galaxy has forgotten how to do. Queen Vex stood again and walked to a different part of the chamber. Here the walls showed images of various alien species going about their daily lives. Watch them, she said. Really watch them. Ben studied the images. At first, everything looked normal. Aliens working, traveling, communicating. But as he watched longer, he began to notice patterns. They are all doing the same things, he realized. Not just the same types of things, but literally the same exact things. Every day, Queen Vex confirmed. The being in the green robes has performed the same ritual every morning for 3,000 years. The metal creature has flown the same route between the same two planets for 50,000 years. The floating jellyfish has been writing the same type of poetry for 100,000 years. But they are immortal, right? Or at least very long-lived. Most species in the galaxy live for thousands or tens of thousands of years. Some, like my people, are essentially immortal unless destroyed by outside force. So they have all the time in the universe to try new things, but they do not. They cannot. They have become trapped by their own perfection. Ben walked over to stand beside Queen Vex, studying the images of alien life. How do you know that humans are different? He asked. We have not been in the galaxy very long. Because I have been watching you specifically for the past 72 hours, Queen Vex said. Ben turned to look at her in surprise. What do you mean? From the moment your ship entered Harmony Point's sensor range, I have been observing your behavior. Every human on your team has surprised me at least once. Queen Vex gestured and new images appeared on the walls. These showed the human delegation during their journey to the station. Anna Kim spent 3 hours rearranging the seating in your shuttle because she thought it would be more comfortable, even though the original arrangement was more efficient. Tom Bradley changed his presentation 17 times because he kept thinking of better ways to explain human culture. Sarah Chen rewrote your entire first contact protocol because she decided the original version was too formal. Ben watched the images of his teammates, recognizing their behavior patterns. And you, Queen Vex continued, have asked me 43 questions since arriving on my ship. Most beings ask me no questions at all. They simply wait for me to tell them what I want. Should I stop asking questions? Never, Queen Vex said, and Ben heard something like happiness in her voice. Your questions are the most interesting conversation I have had in centuries. Ben felt a warm feeling in his chest, but then reality set in. Queen Vex, I appreciate everything you have told me, but I cannot stay here. I have a life on Earth. My team needs to return and report what happened here. I am not asking you to stay forever, Queen Vex said. I am asking you to help me solve the greatest problem in galactic history. How? Queen Vex turned to face him fully, her expression more serious than Ben had seen it. I want you to teach other species how to be human. Ben blinked. I am sorry, what? Not literally human, of course. But I want you to teach them how to think like humans, how to question assumptions, how to find creative solutions, how to change and grow instead of remaining static. I do not think that is possible, Ben said slowly. The way humans think is not something you can just learn like a language or a skill. It is part of who we are, perhaps, but I believe it is worth trying. Queen Vex gestured again and the chamber around them changed. Now they stood in what looked like a classroom, with chairs arranged in a circle. Imagine, she said, a gathering of the greatest minds in the galaxy, scientists, artists, philosophers, engineers, all coming together to learn from humans how to think in new ways. Ben could picture it, and the idea was both exciting and terrifying. But why me specifically? He asked. Anna is the team leader. Tom is smarter than me. Sarah has more experience with different cultures. Because, Queen Vex said, you are the one who questioned me. In a room full of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, you were the only one who treated me like an equal instead of a force of nature. Ben thought about that moment in the council chamber. He had been terrified, but he had also been genuinely curious about what Queen Vex wanted. "I think there might be a problem with your plan," he said. "What problem? You said I belong to you. But if you want me to teach other species, then I cannot be your property. I need to be free to work with everyone equally." Queen Vex tilted her head, considering this. "You are suggesting that I change the terms of my claim. I am suggesting that you change the entire concept," Ben said, feeling bolder. "Instead of claiming me, why not invite Earth to participate in a galactic cultural exchange program?" "Explain." Ben started pacing, his mind racing with possibilities. "Humans get access to galactic technology and knowledge. In exchange, we share our approaches to problem-solving, creativity, and adaptation. Not just me, but teams of humans working with teams of aliens. The other species would never agree to such an arrangement," Queen Vex said. "They fear human unpredictability." "Then we start small," Ben suggested. "A research station somewhere neutral. Volunteers from different species working together on projects that none of them could solve alone." Queen Vex was quiet for a long moment, her crystalline body pulsing with shifting lights. "You realize," she said finally, "that you're asking me to give up the most interesting discovery I have made in 1,000 years. "No," Ben said. "I am asking you to share it with the galaxy. And what if the experiment fails? What if other species cannot learn to think creatively? Then we will try something else," Ben said. "That is what humans do. We fail, we learn, we try again." Queen Vex laughed, a sound like crystal bells ringing in harmony. "You are doing it again," she said. "Doing what?" "Surprising me. I expected you to negotiate for your freedom or beg for your release. Instead, you are proposing to expand the scope of our arrangement." Ben grinned. "Is that a yes?" "It is a maybe," Queen Vex said. "But first you must help me convince the Galactic Council that this idea has merit. How do we do that?" "We return to Harmony Point and you demonstrate human creativity to the assembled delegates." Ben felt his stomach drop. "You want me to perform in front of all those aliens?" "I want you to be yourself," Queen Vex said. "Show them what makes humans different." The chamber around them began to shift again, and Ben realized they were about to teleport back to the station. "Wait," he said. "What if they reject the idea? What if they decide humans are too dangerous? Then?" Queen Vex said, her expression becoming fierce. "They will learn why the Nexus Empire has survived for 2 million years." Ben felt a chill at the implied threat, but also a warmth at the protection it offered. "Queen Vex, can I ask you something?" "Always." "Why is this so important to you? You have everything you could ever want. Why risk it all for change?" Queen Vex's expression softened, and for a moment she looked almost human despite her crystalline features. "Because," she said, "existing is not the same as living. My people, all the peoples of this galaxy have forgotten the difference. You humans still remember." The teleportation effect began, and Ben felt the familiar tingling sensation. "Are you ready to teach the galaxy how to live again?" Queen Vex asked. Ben took a deep breath and squared his shoulders. "Let us find out." The crystal chamber faded around them, and they materialized back in the council chamber at Harmony Point. Every being in the massive room was still there, frozen in various poses of shock and fear. Queen Vex raised her hand, and her voice carried to every corner of the chamber. "Honored delegates of the Galactic Council," she announced, "I present to you Ben Torres of Earth, and a proposal that will change the future of our galaxy." Ben stepped forward, his heart pounding but his mind clear. He looked out at hundreds of alien faces, all staring at him with expressions ranging from terror to curiosity. "Hello," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I know this is unusual, but I would like to tell you about an idea that Queen Vex and I have been discussing." In the human viewing section, Anakim gripped the railing and whispered, "Ben, what are you doing?" Ben smiled up at his teammate before turning back to the assembled delegates. "I am doing what humans do best," he called up to her. "I am improvising." And with that, Ben Torres began to explain how humanity could help the galaxy remember how to grow.